Well, first heat action has already taken place here in LaPlagne, and the Canadian Pierre Luder set a track record as just the second sled down. Luder's mark of 59.38 seconds held for exactly 3 sleds. In the number 5 position, who else? Christoph Langen, an unbelievable time of 59.04. But despite it all, Langen was upset at the finish line. It makes you think that he could perhaps do even better. Talk about upset, Sepp Dostler, the points leader in the World Cup 2-man standings, had a miserable first run, 6th place at that split. He's finished no worse than second in any prior race this year, but could do no better than 8th place in the first heat. So after the first heat of competition, Langen leads by a comfortable margin over Pierre Luders. The Czech Republic's Jiří Zimura is currently in 3rd place. Well, as I mentioned, this track is very fast, thanks in part to the track workers continually spraying the track to ensure as quick a time as possible. Well, opening things up here in the second heat, in 10th place following the first run, USA sled number 1, Jim Herbrick, the driver, and his brakeman, Randy Jones. The normal start times have been in about the 5.906 second range, as you see 6.03 the time to beat, and a 6.07 for Herbrick, who is not known as one of the better starters. His brakeman Randy Jones, however, a very strong athlete. We will be showing you these replays on all of the sleds to really get a good look at what many consider the most important part of a bobsled race, the 50-meter start. The split times on your left will reflect the times so far, and likewise the times to beat for the sleds as they make their way down the track. Jim Herbrick, a 3-time Olympian, former brakeman, a graduate of prestigious Harvard University in the United States, where he competed in athletics. Herbrick and Jones now making their way towards the finish curve. Their sled designed by famous auto race car driver Geoff Bodine. And their finish time just over 1 minute, 1 minute and 0.08 of a second. That 6th place split you see there is not correct, as obviously there is a timing error in the track scoreboard. Herbrick and USA 1 actually hold the best time so far here in the second heat as we watch them negotiate the very tough, quick series of corners. Brakeman Randy Jones with his head tucked down deep, and Jim Herbrick does not appear to enjoy his second heat. 1:59.87, the total time for the time being. USA 1 is in first place. Well, let's give you a closer look at this LaPlagne track here, tucked away in the beautiful French Alps. 1,500 meters in length, one of the longest tracks on the circuit, and certainly the longest these sliders have faced so far this season. 19 curves all told, and at the start of the race, this of course a 2-man competition, but regardless, 2 or 4-man, it's so important for the sliders to load into the sled comfortably. It's a tough course, and these bobsledders can get bounced and bumped around, but if all goes well, it's nothing more than a comfortable and fun ride across the region of France. More to the point, let's now give you a sled's eye view of the trip from top to bottom. All told, the 1,500 meter plus course has a drop of 125 meters from the top to the bottom. See the concentration on the part of the driver. It is so important for the driver not only to anticipate the upcoming curves, but to know them in advance. And many of these drivers can visualize their way down a track even with their eyes closed. There's an old adage in the sport of bobsledding that it's not the driver who drives the most, but he who drives the least who will do the best. Any bump on a sidewall will cost valuable time. Speeds on this LaPlagne track reach in excess of 125 kilometers an hour. A good time in LaPlagne will be anything under 1 minute, but the low 59 range is what will be competitive in today's race. And our next competitors, representing Switzerland, this is Swiss sled number 1, the driver Reto Gocci and his brakeman Guido Acklin. Start time 6:06, third place, 300ths back. Gochi turned 30 just this past Christmas, but already has amassed an impressive resume in the sport, including an Olympic silver medal in 1994 in Lillehammer. His brakeman, Guido Auckland, was right behind him in Lillehammer. And their split time now the fastest so far this run. Gochi was the runner-up to Pierre Lueders of Canada in last year's World Cup points. And as you can see, he now has the fastest split time going as he makes his way about 2/3 of the way down this track. American Jim Herbrick, who just came down, has the current lead, but Gochi with some time to play with. We'll see if the scoreboard problem has been fixed since the last sled came down. And he needs a 59:40 or better, and it says 1 minute, 4 seconds. Again, that is not correct. The total time is correct of 1:59.80, but the split of 5th place not correct, as Gochi has indeed taken over 1st place with the fastest time. In the true tradition of the great Swiss pilots, including Vader, Fosser, Scherer, and Hilterbrand, Gochi is making his mark in the sport as well. And keep in mind, we have an upcoming race on the Carrel World Cup Series a little later on this season on Gochi's home track in St. Moritz, Switzerland. For the time being, 1st place for Swiss 1. World Cup 2-man bobsleigh from LaPlagne, France is brought to you by Carrel, the fastest. Not brand new to the sport, but really making his mark this season. A few weeks back in Koenigsee, Germany, Dassdaller, already with a 2nd place, won his first ever World Cup race in the 2-man competition. This from a pilot who was ready to quit the sport out of frustration of trying to break into the German program and a lack of funds. But now Sepp Dassdaller is firmly planted in this German team. 2 seconds and a 1st place this season. He had a very disappointing first heat, however, 8th place after the first run. But a great start, 5.98, so Dassdaller is on his way to perhaps moving up a few positions here in heat number 2. Sepp Dassdaller, 31 years old, from Brandenburg, Germany. A music instructor by trade when he's not sliding down, creating some music with his runners to the ice. Very disappointing 59.73 his first heat run, and his split time though looking much better for the German pilot here in heat number 2 as he has the fastest time. 126.7 kilometers per hour. Keep an eye on that graphic up at the top as the sleds come down afterwards, because that is always a good indication on how well the times are midway down the track. Making his way to the finish, Dassdaller will need a time of 1 minute exactly. As you can see, he betters that by a safe margin. Disregard the 2, because that 1:59.31 has moved Sepp Dassdaller and Thomas Platzer, Germany number 2, into the lead for the time being. A remarkable 2nd heat for Dassdaller, who actually put in a time better than their first heat here the 2nd time down, even with the deteriorating ice conditions. Italy number 1, Gunther Huber and Antonio Tartaglia. They were in 7th place after the first heat. That 5:98 start time is what Dassdaller just put down, 6:07. So 7/100ths of a second back, but Huber is one of those drivers that perhaps can make up the time. Another look at that start, a great display of the teamwork on the part of the German-speaking Italian driver and the Italian-speaking brakeman, Huber, from that Tyrolean region in northern Italy, really sliding more in the German tradition of this sport. Well, the 2nd best split time, and Huber will have all he can do to try to keep up with Sepp Dassdaller, who just put a brilliant run down on the previous sled. 42.66, the Dassdaller split to beat, and Huber continues to fall back. The 2-time World Cup 2-man champion, Huber, comes off of a bronze medal at the last Olympics in the 2-man competition in Lillehammer. looking for a time of 59.81 or better to take over the lead, 59.69. So some great driving on the bottom part of this course, and though they have trouble stopping that sled, that I guess is an indication of some great speed on the part of the Italians. Here at the bottom, they move into first place. Gunther Huber leaning his way into those curves, but very little head movement, very little snap. Smooth, quiet driving by this Italian team generally spells to fast times. A handshake and a first place standing so far for Italy #1. Combined time, 1:59.31. Well, the conditions here are perfect for bobsleigh. Partly sunny, very little wind, and though the temperature a bit above veteran of the sport, but this year displays a brand new logo on his sled with a bit of family tradition involved in the design.
The monk is taken from our coat of arms, from the Grimaldi family coat of arms. But Francis Grimaldi and his men dressed up as monks on the night of January 8, 1297, and recaptured the fortress in Monaco. And the family's been there ever since. And so that's, and so we just took, I asked Greg Spears to maybe try to fit it in what he was thinking about for us.
The monk, to me, is, you know, a symbol of strength, and a little bit of, there was a little bit of divine intervention in that story as well. And it also goes with what's happening in sports. I think there's a trend happening, and the trend is to merge art and sports together. And just to be associated with Prince Albert, I mean, to me, that was just an honor to be able to work on something for the Prince.
Incidentally, artist Greg Spears was also involved in designing the Lithuanian basketball shirts, a tie-dye look that was actually funded by the late Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. In sixth place after the first heat, this is Canada 2, Chris Laurie and Ben Hindle. 5:98, the best start time so far, that by Sepp Dostahler. They're off the pace, but Chris Laurie has a bit of a lead over Dostahler. In his 12th year in the sport, Chris Laurie is one of the veterans now in bobsledding, a three-time Olympian, still setting his sights perhaps to the 1998 games in Nagano, Japan. Negotiating down those tricky curves, keep an eye on the split times as Laurie seems to be picking up a little bit on the Germans. He's just missed out on podium appearances in his last few races, but several top 5 appearances already for Chris Laurie this season. Setting his sights on the World Championships a little later on this year in Calgary. Laurie is looking to have a very good run going, 3rd place, but 0.08 of a second back. He has some time to play with. He needs a 59.68 or better to move into first place, and he just misses out. 59.75, again, disregard that 12th place you see, but the total time reflects a 2nd place standing for the time being for Canada 2. Laurie with an outside shot to win a medal here in LaPlagne.
Better than the first one. 5 back with Huber.
Hoover got Dostahler on the bottom too. So.
He must have really cooked it on the bottom.
Chris Laurie talking about that bottom part of the track for Gunther Huber, who maintains the lead, and here's Austria 1. Hubert Schoser, the driver, not a great starter, as reflected there, a 1/10 of a second back already for this predominantly successful 4-man pilot. Twice, Hubert Schoser has won a silver medal at the World Championships, both those times in the 4-man competition. His brakeman Schutzenauer new to the 2-man sled. 25.77, 6th place at that latest split. So again, a great idea of just how well Gunther Huber fared in his run. The Austrians were in 5th place after the first heat. They need a time of 59.72 or better. Their speed, 126.3 kilometers an hour, not as good as some of the speed we've seen in the previous sleds. And as you see, he is dropping further back, 4th best split at that point. That's unusual to be losing time at the bottom when you don't detect a mistake. It'll be tough to call what happened, 59.99. So the Austrians actually fall back 3 positions into 4th place for the time being. 2:00.24. Well, Gunther Huber of Italy is delighted because he retains the lead here in LaPlagne. but back to the top in 4th place. After the first heat, the Latvians. Latvian sled number 1, Sandis Prūsis and Aris Brūksne. 5.98, still the best start time, that by Sepp Dastaller. 2nd place, 6:03 for the Latvians. They're known as great starters. In fact, Sandis Prūsis has won the World Push Championship summer competition in the past. And you see the drive forward. Heads headed downhill by both driver and brakeman. And of course, so important to get that quick start time. Well, Prūsis, like Schlosser, who just preceded him, slowing down a bit as he makes his way down the track. The Latvian has been inconsistent. He won a World Cup race last year in Winterberg, but then finished no better than 12th in any other competition. 16th at the Olympics in Lillehammer. 49.29 the split time to beat. He doesn't do it, he falls back to 5th place. So something may be happening to the ice conditions, because we are seeing the drivers with time advantages entering the heat falling further back. 1 minute plus for the 2nd heat, so a very disappointing run for Latvia 1. That drops them down to 5th place with a run nearly a half a second slower than their first effort. Italian Günther Huber continues to lead the way with 4 sleds remaining. Chris Lorien 2nd, Sepp Dastaller currently in 3rd place.
Choosing a movie just got a whole lot easier. Introducing Corel All Movie Guide, the ultimate multimedia movie expert. Brought to you by the world leader in graphic software, Corel All Movie Guide gives you interactive access to the most comprehensive movie database on CD-ROM. Enjoy hours and hours of entertainment, exploring the glamorous world of movie stars, directors, and behind-the-scenes.
And just south of here by a couple of hours in the beautiful French Riviera, each summer the best bobsledders in the world come together for the World Bobsled Push Championships hosted by Prince Albert. And it is this team from the Czech Republic that has fared very well. Jiří Demura, a winner here in this competition 2 years ago. His brakeman, Pavel Polamski. Obviously, they get great starts. 5:98 the start time to beat, and not a great start, or as good as they'd like to stay competitive here in the final run. As we watch the heads drive forward, the powerful thighs, so many of these bobsleigh athletes are crossovers from athletics or weight disciplines, and it is a mix of speed and strength, which propels you to the bottom in a faster time. The Czech Republic looking for a time of 59.81 or better to move into the lead. 4th best split time, and we've seen several of the sleds have problems as this 2nd heat has unfolded. 4 Olympic showings in the past 2 games for Demura, no better than 20th place, although he's had 2 top 10s at the World Championships. Across the finish line, 59.81, not 9th place. Actually, that puts Demura into a tie for 1st place at the moment with Günther Huber of Italy. With just 2 sleds remaining, the Czechs have been guaranteed a medal. 159.31, and celebration for the Czechs. Here's Pierre Lueders of Canada, the defending World Cup champion. Like everyone else, he played catch-up to the Germans in Germany.
This isn't Germany, this is France, so hopefully, it's neutral and everybody will be on a neutral level, and not everyone's had 100 runs here, so it'll be interesting.
Keep in mind, Christoph Langen of Germany was the 1st heat leader, just ahead of Pierre Lueders. Langen getting ready to come down the track, but here comes Canada 1, Pierre Lueders and brakeman Dave McEachran. They had a 5.99 start in the 1st heat. They'll need that or better. 5.95, so the best start of the 2nd heat by 0.03 of a second, and we'll now see if Pierre Lueders' increasingly improving driving abilities will keep him in contention for 1st place. Dave McEachran, as I mentioned, his brakeman. Pierre Lueders actually switches back and forth between McEachran and Jack Pick, so regardless of the brakeman, this man gets the great results. He's currently 2nd in the overall World Cup standings. In just 3 seasons, this 25-year-old has already won 11 World Cup medals. He's got his sights set on his home track, the World Championships later this season in Calgary, but right now he has his sights set on the bottom of this track. He's got a great run going, 127+ kilometers an hour, and by 0.07 of a second, a faster split than the 2 sleds that are tied for first place. At the bottom, the Italians and the Czechs wait. But here comes Pierre Lueders, 59.60. That will do it. That will move him into first place with a total time of 1:59.73. Disregard that 7. Put a 1 there because the Canadians are in front. As I mentioned, Pierre Lueders, the huge size, the great starts, but now the increasingly better driving as well. First place for the time being with just 1 big sled left to go. Can they hold on?
I don't know. Stranger things have happened, but that's a good team up there.
Good team, to say the least, Pierre. Here they are, Germany #1, the driver Christoph Langen, his brakeman Olaf Hampel. Langen has won the past 3 World Cup races. He had an unbelievable 5.86 start en route to a track record in the first heat. 5.87. So Langen is making this look ridiculous. And we're told he is doing all of this with a sore foot, an Achilles problem. So credit Langen's courage as well as some great pushing on the part of his brakeman, Olaf Hampel, because in each of the 2 heats, Germany 1 has gotten the best start time. A great indication that the start is in fact the most important part of the run. Langen and teammate Dirk Wiese, a great 4-man pilot, are proof that the former West Germans are really making their mark in the sport in the German program alongside Olympic gold medalists Wolfgang Hoppe and Harald Joda. Well, first place at the latest split, he's got all sorts of time to play with. 59.94 or better is the time we will be looking for Christoph Langen to win his 4th straight World Cup championship. And he does it. And he does it easily. 59.39. Christoph Langen, the 2-time world champion, has the best heat in the first run, the best time as well in run #2, and he has won this competition. Even with an injury, Langen has made it look easy the past several weeks on the Carrel World Cup Series. A total time of 1:58.43, and you see the obvious limping on the part of Christoph Langen, a bit of pain, but a bit of celebrating tonight as well. They win it over the Canadians, Czech Republic, and Italy #1. Chris Laurie in 5th place. What is it about these Germans? They just keep on winning.
It's hard training, and we have got a good team, and so everybody pushed the next, and so we have got the good times.
Olaf Hampel, brakeman for